Well, hello again, mathematicians. Today we are going to complete the lesson on dividing fractions and whole numbers. If you thought multiplying fractions was easy yesterday, then today should be just as easy. So once again, just like yesterday, you should have found in your Google Classroom a slides presentation that contains the directions as well as your homework for the dividing fractions. So let me show you real quick what that should have been, just like yesterday. So you have your place where you can get the video on how to do this. Then you have your notes that help you understand how to divide fractions. And then your homework, of course, is attached as well. And for the homework, remember, only complete the circled problems. You'll also notice that for the homework and for the problems we're going to do today, we are only doing fractions and whole numbers. We are not going to focus on fraction divided by fraction or mixed number divided by mixed number. That is something that you will do in 6th grade. So we're just going to get you the basics today, which should be fairly easy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pull up our whiteboard here and we'll be able to practice some problems together. So here we go. So let's say we were going to solve the division problem 3 divided by 1/2. You'll notice, or if you noticed on the Google Slides, I said that dividing fractions, there's really no division involved at all. Because if you actually think about what 3 divided by 1/2 means, what that means is you have 3 wholes of something. So we're just going to do 3 rectangles for right now. And if you divide each of those in half, how many pieces do you end up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 divided by 1/2 is actually 6 because you're looking at how many pieces, half-size pieces, you ended up with. So when you divide a fraction, or I'm sorry, a whole number by a fraction, you are always going to get a whole number as your answer because you're answering the question, how many of these half-size pieces can I make out of 3 whole? So if we took another example, let's say we were doing 8 divided by 1/8, let's say. So again, imagine you had your 8 rectangles. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if you were imagining to divide these into eighths, well, you know you're going to have 8 pieces here, 8 pieces here, 8 pieces here, 8, 8, 8, 8, and 8. So when all is said and done, you have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, and 64. So 8 divided by 1/8 then actually equals 64 because you have 64 of those 1/8 size pieces. So let's clear drawings and let's see what happens when you have now a fraction divided by a whole number. So now let's go and do 1/3 divided by 4. So if we think about this in picture terms, what we have is, again, I'll do a bigger rectangle here. So we have our third. So if we focus just on this piece right here that I'm shading in, now I'm going to divide that into 4 equal pieces. So if I divide that into 4 equal pieces, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice that I now have shaded and I have made 12ths. So if I take a look at 1/3, so here was my third section, and I divided that into 4ths, if I ignore everything else, each individual piece is just going to be tiny. It's actually going to be 1 out of the 12 that we made. So 1/3 divided by 4 actually becomes 1/12. So you think about that shape that's 1/3, and if you were to break the whole thing into fourths, now you've made twelfths, and so your answer is 1/12. What if we did 1/5 divided by 2? Okay, so again, I'm going to imagine my rectangle. First of all, I'm going to break it into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to divide it into 2 pieces, so I'm just going to draw a line here down the center. So now I have 1, 2 rows that I made. And since I was talking about 1/5, this was the original amount that I had of 1/5. But now if I divide that into 2, now I'm only going to look at this tiny piece right here that I'm circling multiple times. That actually is 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1/5 divided by 2 is 1/10. So what all this boils down to is that when you're dividing fractions, there is a general phrase or a general rule to follow, and that is keep, change, flip. Now, right now that does not make much sense to you, but let's take a look at a fraction and see what this really means. Because if you think back to the examples we did, we were multiplying on everything. We weren't dividing. So if I wanted to do 1/8 divided by 9, let's say. So keep, change, flip refers to what you're going to do to each part of the fraction problem. So keep, you're always going to keep the first number the way it is. You're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then you're going to flip over the last number. So in this case, what that looks like is keep 1/8. I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, which there's that dead area in my screen again. And I'm going to flip over the 9. But if you remember from our lesson yesterday, 9 is technically 9/1. So if I flip it over, now I'm going to have 1/9, which now when I go back and multiply based on what we learned yesterday, 1 times 1 is 1, 8 times 9 is 72. Wow, that's not working so well. So I end up with the fraction 1/72 as my final answer. That is super sloppy. So let's do another one. Clear my drawings. So remember, keep, change, flip. I missed technology in room 62. All right, so let's try, this time let's do a whole number first. So let's do 7 divided by 1/5. Okay, so in our earlier example, remember we drew 7 rectangles, we broke each of those into fifths, and then we counted up how many pieces that was. That's how we got our answer. But in this format, keep, change, flip, I'm going to keep the 7. I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. I'm going to flip over my 1/5. Flip it over just simply means to make the denominator the numerator and the numerator the denominator. So I end up with 5/1. Now let's go back to what we did yesterday. Since 7's a whole number, let's put a 1 under it. Now multiply across your numerators, 35. Multiply across your denominators, 1. And we know that 35/1 is 35. Woohoo. Okay, how about another one? Keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. That should be your mantra for this lesson. So let's do 1/9 divided by 4. Okay, keep, change, flip. And remember, 4 is technically 4/1. So we're going to keep 1/9. We're going to change division to multiplication. We're going to flip over the 4, making it a 1/4. Now we're going to do our simple multiplication problem, 1/36. And again, no simplifying there, but always the last thing you need to do is check to see that it can be simplified. All right, so I think that that's pretty simple. However, if you have questions, like always, please don't hesitate to email or message me through Google Classroom. I would be happy to help you through that. I do believe if you have a good grasp on what you did for multiplying fractions, dividing fractions is going to be just as easy. Just remember, keep, change, flip. Chat later.